Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling. Your English grammar is spot on. Your vocabulary, well, it's expanding daily. You feel confident writing. And then you speak, and you get that hesitant, slightly confused look.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Exactly. Or what was that again? It's so frustrating.
It really is. Because you know you have the message, you've got the words, but something's just not quite landing. And that something is, well, often pronunciation.
Right. And that's what this deep dive is really zeroing in on. It's not just some minor thing for advanced learners.
Yeah.
Our sources really hammer home that pronunciation is, well, critical.
Absolutely. It shapes first impressions, your confidence, how effectively people actually receive what you're saying.
Yeah.
Especially, in professional contexts.
Yeah, think about it. Your fluency level, how good people think your English is, it's partly judged by how easily they understand you.
Right. If your pronunciation makes it hard work for the listener, they might underestimate your actual language skills. Some sources even mentioned U.S. employers kind of favoring candidates with more, let's say, standard accents.
Wow. So it's actually bigger than just ordering a coffee, clearly. It can impact perception, maybe even opportunity?
It seems so.
Okay. So our mission today then, pulling from this stack of articles, guides, insights from language coaches, real experts, is to kind of cut through the noise.
Yeah, find the good stuff.
Find the most actionable, maybe even surprising tips the sources offer. Stuff to help you really tackle pronunciation, effectively, and hopefully feel more understood.
Sounds like a plan. So maybe start with the fundamentals, like why does it matter so much, beyond just making the sounds right?
Good question. The sources frame communication as this, interactive dance. It's not just you talking at someone.
Right. It's speaking, hearing, coding the message in your head, their brain decoding it.
And if the pronunciation is off, that decoding part, it becomes a real struggle for the listener.
One source used the phrase negative vibes. Not in some weird way, but just the cognitive load, the effort it takes them to figure out the word you meant.
And that pulls their focus away from your actual message, right?
Yeah.
They're busy deciphering.
Which is the exact opposite of what you want. You want them focused on your ideas, your content.
Definitely. Now, a really key point the sources stressed is that the goal isn't perfect pronunciation.
No, thank goodness.
Or sounding exactly like some specific native speaker from London or LA or wherever. That's often, unrealistic.
Yeah.
And probably unnecessary.
Totally. Aiming for that one single perfect is just overwhelming.
So what is the goal then? What's practical?
The sources seem to converge on aiming for standard pronunciation. Basically, speaking in a way that's easily understood by a really wide range of people.
Both native and non-native speakers.
Exactly. You might pick a general dialect as a model, like, say, General American or British RP as a starting point. It gives you a framework, but you don't need to be a perfect clone.
Okay, standard and understandable. That feels way more achievable.
Right.
Now, here's something that really jumped out at me from the sources. Pronunciation isn't just mental. It's not just knowing rules. They describe it as a physical skill.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial. It involves actual muscles, your tongue, your lips, your jaw, even muscles in your throat.
Like playing piano or, learning tennis?
Precisely. Think about it. Your native language has trained those muscles in certain ways for years, maybe decades. English might need totally different movements.
So just knowing the spelling or the grammar rule isn't enough. You have to physically do it.
Exactly. You need to retrain those muscles. It takes physical practice, muscle memory, just like, practicing scales or perfecting your golf swing.
That totally reframes it. It's like mouth gymnastics.
Nope, yeah.
Okay, so understanding it's physical helps. Now, let's get into the weeds a bit. What makes English pronunciation so famously difficult?
Well, a huge factor is the disconnect between letters and sounds. We've got 26 letters, right? But one source mentioned British English having around 44 distinct sounds or phonemes. 44.
Wow, okay. 20 vowel sounds, 24 consonants, something like that.
That's the count, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost double the number of letters, so no wonder it gets confusing. And the spelling. Oh, boy.
Notoriously unhelpful.
Understatement. You get classic examples like way, W-A-Y, way, W-E-I-G-H, and way, W-H-E-Y, spelled differently.
Sound exactly the same.
Right. Then you get comb, C-O-M-B, bomb, B-O-M-B, and tomb, T-O-M-B, spelled similarly.
Sound completely different. Comb, bomb, tune.
Yeah, and don't forget the silent letters everywhere.
Like the L in calm or walk, the K in knife, or the B in comb or debt.
Exactly. And sometimes sounds just appear out of nowhere, not even hinted at by the spelling, like the F sound in lieutenant in British English anyway.
Or the W sound in queen, or that J sound at the start of uniform.
It's a minefield, honestly. Less like rules, more like historical accidents sometimes.
Okay, so individual sounds are tricky. Moving up a level, there's word stress. That's huge in words with more than one syllable.
Oh, massive. One syllable gets all the attention. It's longer, louder, maybe higher pitch. And the vowel sound is really clear. The others get kind of swallowed.
Reduced, yeah. And where you put that stress can completely change the meaning, which is wild.
Right. The classic example. Present the noun, a gift, versus present the verb, to give something.
Totally different words just based on stress.
Exactly. Now, there are some general patterns people talk about, like two-syllable nouns often stress the first syllable, verbs the second.
But the sources said don't rely too much on rules, right?
Pretty much. They emphasize that listening is key. Hear how native speakers say it. That's the most reliable guide.
Got it. Listen more than memorize rules. And that music of English carries on into whole sentences, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sentence stress, intonation.
Yeah, sentence stress is about emphasizing the important words, the ones carrying the core meaning. And intonation is the melody, the rise and fall of your voice.
That conveys so much, like emotion, or if it's a question or a statement.
Exactly. And then when we speak naturally, words don't just sit there in isolation, they all flow together. Connected speech.
Ah, yes, connected speech.
Yeah.
The sources broke this down nicely. There's linking, first off, just smoothly joining sounds, like an apple sounds like an apple.
Right. Then there's intrusion. It sounds complicated, but it's often just adding a tiny sound like R, W, or J between vowel sounds so it flows better.
Like saying go out quickly might sound like go out.
Yeah, or I agree can sound like I agree. Then there's elision, basically dropping sounds to make things easier. Often happens with T or D sounds at the end of words when the next word starts similarly.
Like next door might sound more like next door.
Yeah.
Dropping the T.
Exactly. Or I must go becoming I must go. And finally, assimilation. This is where a sound actually changes to become more like the sound next to it.
For speed and ease, right? Like good boy can sound more like good boy. The D changes to a B.
Precisely. Or don't you becoming don't you, where the T and the J sound merge into a T.
Wow. Okay, so spoken English is definitely not just a neat sequence of separate words and sounds. It's messy and fluid.
It really is. Understanding why it's tricky and what these building blocks are, the sounds, the stress, the connected speech, that's step one.
So armed with that knowledge, what's in the toolkit? What resources did the sources recommend for actually learning and improving?
Well, top of the list, absolutely essential according to pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Online dictionaries that have audio pronunciations.
Your best friend for checking single words.
Totally. The sources mentioned a bunch: Collins, Google Translate, Merriam-Webster, Word Reference, Oxford, Longman, Forvo.
Any specific features that stood out for those?
Yeah, a few things. Collins sometimes has audio for different forms of a word, or even in short phrases. Merriam-Webster's app apparently lets you search by just saying the word.
Oh, handy if you don't know the spelling.
Right. And Google Translate has that visual guide showing mouth movements. Ties right back into the physical skill idea.
That's clever. What else?
Word Reference got a shout out for having a surprising range of accents, not just standard US and UK, but Irish, Scottish, even Jamaican and Southern U.S. sometimes.
That's cool. And Oxford?
Oxford was praised for using actual human voices for their recordings, not just computer-generated speech.
Oh, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
TTS can sound a bit robotic sometimes.
Definitely. A real human voice gives you a much better model. Okay, another really powerful tool mentioned was the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA.
Right, those funny symbols you see in dictionaries looks a bit like learning a whole new alphabet.
It can seem intimidating, yeah, but it's incredibly useful because each symbol represents exactly one sound, consistently, no matter how the word is spelled.
So it cuts through all the spelling chaos. A reliable map to the sound.
That's a great way to put it, a sound map. You don't necessarily have to memorize the whole chart, but even just recognizing the symbols helps you decode pronunciation guides accurately.
Okay, makes sense. And beyond dictionaries and IPA, any specialized apps or websites?
Yeah, a few specifics came up. ELSA Speak is an app that focuses specifically on American English pronunciation feedback.
And for British English.
The British Council has an app called Learn English Sounds, right, focused on their sounds.
Helpful for targeting a specific accent model. What about tools for specific problems, like syllables?
There's a website called How Many Syllables, which does exactly what it says, helps you break down words. And another site, easypronunciation.com, can apparently generate IPA transcriptions for text you paste in.
Yeah, quite a few digital helpers there. So we understand the challenges, we have the resources. Now for the big one, the actual practice. How do we do the muscle training?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road. Foundational technique, intense listening. Train your ear first.
Focusing on telling similar sounds apart, those minimal pairs you mentioned.
Exactly. Words that differ by just one sound, like ship versus sheep, or live versus leave, cat versus cut.
Things that might sound the same to a learner but are distinct in English.
Precisely. There are websites like Many Things that have specific minimal pair exercises. But honestly, just focused listening to anything, podcasts, TV shows, music is crucial. Pay attention to the sounds.
And then listening needs to be paired with speaking, right?
Yeah.
Reading aloud came up a lot.
Yes, making it a daily habit, even just 15 minutes. Grab an article, a book, anything, and read it out loud.
Why is that so effective?
It gets your mouth, your tongue, your lips actually moving and forming the English sounds. It's practice in a safe, private space. Builds up that muscle stamina.
Okay, then there was the one that sounded a bit odd. Narrate your life.
Yes. It feels super awkward at first talking to yourself, but the sources really recommended it.
So like literally saying, I am now picking up my mug.
Exactly. I am walking to the window. I am typing an email. It forces you to constantly form English sentences and sounds using those muscles actively throughout the day, not just in study time.
Okay, I can see the logic. It's like constant mini workouts for your mouth.
Pretty much. Another really powerful technique is shadowing.
Explain that one again.
You listen to a native speaker, maybe from a video or audio clip, and you try to repeat what they're saying almost simultaneously, like an echo following right behind them.
Trying to match everything. Rhythm, pitch changes, speed, how the words connect.
That's the goal. It's fantastic for practicing the flow and musicality of English in a real-time context. You can use Netflix, YouTube, podcasts.
Start easy maybe. Use subtitles.
Good idea. Start with simpler content, maybe kids shows, or use subtitles or transcripts to help you keep up. You don't have to get every word perfect immediately, just try to catch the rhythm.
Okay. And a slightly less intense version is just repeating specific sentences you hear.
Yeah, sentence repetition. Hear a phrase, pause, repeat it. Helps you nail the cadence and articulation of words strung together.
Now, instead of trying to fix every single sound at once, the advice was to focus, right?
Yes. Identify your personal problem sounds. These are often influenced by your first language.
Like the sound is tough for so many people.
Very common. Or maybe the English R sound, or differentiating L and R, or certain vowel sounds like the ones in sit and seat, or maybe final consonants for speakers whose native language tends to drop them.
So make a hit list. Your top 5 or maybe 8 difficult sounds.
Exactly. And focus your deliberate practice there. And this is where the physical part really comes back in. How do you practice those specific sounds?
Right. It's not enough to just know it's hard.
You need to pay attention to the mechanics. How do native speakers actually form that sound? Use a mirror. Watch your own mouth. Does it look like theirs?
Are there specific exercises?
Yes. Things like the finger test for shins versus sounds. Researching tongue position, like for all the where does the tip of the tongue actually go. Practice those specific movements. Don't forget general vocal warm-ups too. Breathing, stretching the jaw.
And for those really tricky sounds you're working on, there was that slightly weird tip. Exaggerate them.
Yes. This feels unnatural, maybe even silly at first. But when you're practicing, consciously overdo the sound. Make the mouth movement bigger, the airflow stronger, the tongue position more definite.
Why does that help?
It helps you isolate the correct movement and really feel it. It trains the muscles more intensely. And often, what feels like an exaggeration to you might actually sound perfectly clear or even just right to a native listener. Keep exaggerating in practice until the correct, clear sound starts feeling normal.
Until the muscle memory takes over.
Okay.
What about really long or difficult words?
Break them down. Syllable by syllable. The sources mention the chin test. Put your hand under your chin, say the word slowly. Each time your chin drops is usually a syllable.
Okay. Like syllable. 3 drops, 3 syllables.
Exactly. Practice each syllable on its own, making sure you get the sounds right within that chunk. Then put them back together slowly. Focus extra attention on the syllables that give you trouble.
Makes sense. And for something a bit more fun, but still effective.
Tongue twisters. They seem like kids' stuff, but they're actually brilliant practice.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
That's the one. Or, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. They force your mouth to move quickly and accurately between similar sounds, really testing your articulation and agility. Great for minimal pairs, too.
Helps get rid of that congestion someone mentioned. Makes speech smoother.
Yeah, exactly. And one more fun one, singing.
Sing along to English songs.
Yep. Find the lyrics to songs you like and just belt them out. It takes the pressure off forming your own sentences so you can focus purely on hitting the sounds, matching the rhythm, the intonation. Plus, you tend to use more breath and energy when singing.
It's like a combo of shadowing and reading aloud, but with music.
And probably more enjoyable for many people.
Okay, wow. That's a lot of practice techniques. So you're doing all this listening, reading aloud, shadowing, singing. How do you actually track your progress? How do you know what still needs work?
You need feedback. And the best source of feedback initially is often yourself. The sources strongly recommend recording yourself speaking.
Just using your phone.
Phone, computer, whatever. Audio is good. Video is even better.
Why video?
Because then you can actually see your mouth movements, your lip shapes, your facial expressions alongside hearing the sound. Remember, it's physical.
Okay, so you record yourself. Then the hard part.
Yeah.
Listening back.
Yes. And you have to be critical, but constructively so. Compare your recording to a native speaker model. Maybe it's the original audio you shadowed, or in an audiobook version of the text you read aloud.
And ask specific questions.
Exactly. Am I making the right mouth shape for that vowel? Is my tongue in the correct place for the sound? Am I stressing the right syllable in this word? Where do I sound different from the model?
So it's like being your own pronunciation detective.
Pretty much. Another technique is dictation. This really trains your ear. Listen to some audio, a podcast clip, a news report, and try to write down exactly what you hear.
How does that help pronunciation?
It forces you to listen incredibly carefully to distinguish sounds, and it helps connect the sounds you hear with how words are actually spelled and pronounced in context, including connected speech.
Right, linking sounds to spelling patterns.
Okay.
Ultimately, though, all these tools and techniques boil down to consistent effort, don't they?
Absolutely. Consistency is king. Progress in pronunciation isn't usually fast or dramatic. It takes patience, dedication, regular practice.
Making it a habit.
Yes. Try to build it into your daily routine, even if it's just for short bursts, maybe 10 minutes while you have coffee, 15 minutes before bed. Attach it to an existing habit. Remember, forming a new habit takes time, maybe a couple of months before it feels automatic.
And a key piece of advice was, don't rush. Don't feel you need to speak fast.
Definitely not. Speaking slower is actually beneficial, especially when you're learning. It gives your brain time to think about the sounds. It helps your mouth muscles coordinate. It reduces tension. You can focus on clarity and your message.
Speed comes later, naturally, with practice.
Exactly. Don't force it. Clarity first.
What about practicing with other people, if you're up for it?
If social anxiety isn't a huge barrier, yes, it can be really helpful. A language exchange partner or a patient friend can offer feedback. You learn from each other.
And talking to native speakers.
Even brief interactions are great real-world practice, though getting specific pronunciation feedback might be easier with someone you know well, or ideally, a tutor.
Why tutor specifically?
Well, it's literally their job to listen carefully and provide targeted, constructive feedback on things like pronunciation. They know how to explain corrections effectively. But you can also ask trusted friends, hey, I'm working on my itis. Can you let me know if you hear me mispronouncing it?
Okay. And the final, maybe most important piece of advice seemed to be just speak.
Yes. Overcome the nerves, overcome the fear of making mistakes, and just speak. Use the language.
It's a basketball analogy, right? You can't get better at shooting just by dribbling.
Exactly. You have to take the shot. You have to actually practice producing the sounds out loud, even if it's just talking to yourself more. Speak loudly. Get used to hearing your own voice making those English sounds. It builds confidence.
It really does.
Yeah.
So, wow. We've covered a lot today, pulled out a whole range of strategies from these sources. Everything from the essential tools like audio dictionaries and maybe getting familiar with IPA.
To all those active practice techniques.
Yeah.
Focused, listening, reading aloud, narrating your life, shadowing, breaking down words, exaggerating sounds, tongue twisters, even singing.
Plus ways to monitor yourself like recording and analyzing.
Yeah.
It really is a multi-pronged attack on the problem.
Addressing the why it's hard, the what makes it hard, and crucially, the how to improve.
And just to reiterate that goal, the sources consistently frame it not as achieving some perfect native accent, but as gaining clearer, more confident communication.
Feeling understood, that's the key.
It's definitely a journey, takes time, takes that consistent effort we talked about, but hopefully the strategies we've unpacked today give you a much clearer path forward.
Yeah, a practical roadmap.
Okay, so to leave you with a final thought to chew on, try thinking about your pronunciation practice less like studying grammar rules and more like, say, training a specific muscle group at the gym. It's physical. So what's one small physical practice, something involving your mouth, your tongue, your voice, that you could commit to adding to your daily routine starting today just to begin strengthening those English-speaking muscles?